Hello, it's Molly Reamer with 30 Days of Goddess and Bridget's Grove with our May practice update. This month, our theme is love, and the goddess we are honoring is Oshun. So, inviting you to take a nice deep breath, to call your spirit back, to allow yourself to settle into your body, into this moment, into what is right now, what your landscape holds, what your life holds. Calling it in, letting it be, dropping your roots down into the earth, feeling your heart beat in your chest, extending your awareness outward to your landscape and what wisdom and teaching it holds for you right now. And a brief reading from our guidebook for April and May. May we nourish seeds of possibility and joy. May we tend to seeds of connection and ideas. May we nurture seeds of genius and sparks of change. May we gather up what we've created and hold it lovingly, and then open our hands and let go. May we plant what we can, savor what we can, harvest what we need to thrive, and love where we are right now, our hearts alive and hopes extended. May we be as full of promise as a nestled seed, lying in darkness at the fiercest edge of cracking open, ready to see what grows. So welcome to May, welcome to another month of practice, whatever that looks like to you, wanting to remind you that this practice is here to hold you, not to tell you what to do or feel like an obligation. So allow it to be as small or as big, as nourishing or as encompassing as best meets your needs. So I wanted to share another poem with you along with this theme of love. I had a poem that I wrote recently that I actually wrote this back in April, but I feel like it really speaks to love as the ground of being. Our affirmation for the month is love is all around me. And I think this poem speaks to that energy. And so I wanted to share that with you today. And so another month dawns, and we are here witnessing the world turn, inhabiting our own lives with all the truth we can muster and all the hope we can find. Someone has to do the work of finding beauty, offering inspiration, refusing to give up on wonder. For without these things, we are all lost. It may feel frivolous or indulgent to keep looking for enchantment, for reaching out to magic, for settling into the sacred, for feeling the breath of the holy stir in our own chests. And yet it is vital. If not us, who? If not now, when? Whole and healthy hearts, whole and healthy lives, whole and healthy souls are essential for the unfolding story of life in this universe. This is a work of reclamation and renewal, a work of liberation and of love, a work that refuses to submit to apathy or despair, and instead keeps the light burning, fierce and persistent through all that conspires to subjugate and destroy, to quench and extinguish. Today, the mulberry and hackberry trees are suddenly studded with small green buds, coaxed at last from their time of rest into a time of reaching. I once read that most people on earth owe some part of their existence to hackberries, these unassuming black fruits that nourished countless generations through long winters in the dark. They catch my eye today because they look as if they're sparkling with raindrops or dotted with tiny green points of light. When we retreat inward to listen, to connect to the goddess in our hearts, landscapes, and lives, we emerge strengthened and renewed, hands extended, the light of purpose and trust shining through us in this work of loving and listening that we are here to do. And so I mentioned in there hackberries. I feel like this month for me, I feel like brings in a sense of the generational love, the love of the earth, the landscape love, the love of the sacred that keeps us all going, that keeps us all held. I write often about being held and heard. I write about our own belonging. I write about this force of love that generated us all into being. And so I think of generations, and I know people's a relationship with our ancestors can be complicated, and our ancestors can come from legacies of pain and colonization and all kinds of things like that. And so I think of ancestors, I write sometimes of ancestors of stone and ancestors of bone, ancestors of land and ancestors of blood. And so I feel like we have a lot of ancestors, and some of it is the land. And so my line about hackberries in there I wanted to briefly explain is that the hackberry tree exists on all continents except for Antarctica, and foraged consumption of the hackberry fruit dates back 600,000 years. It is the oldest known foraged food. And so when the line about like some part of our existence is owed to hackberries is that it's a fruit that will stay on the tree all winter long, and you can still eat it. So instead of having to be harvested at a certain time, it will actually stay on the tree and you can still eat it for months to come, even in the winter. And so the idea is that this is the oldest known foraged food. This food literally kept generations of people on all continents alive. And so if it hadn't done that, we wouldn't be here today. So we have ancestors of tree and ancestors of bone, ancestors of stone and ancestors of blood. And so I wanted to acknowledge that. And the humble hackberry, a lot of people don't even know what one looks like, but they're still here all around us. And to me, that is part of that everyday magic that reminds me that love is all around us. Love can come in the form of those little black hackberries. It doesn't have to be necessarily from other people. And so, again, still thinking about love and thinking about ancestry and things like that, I also wanted to read a poem that I wrote because I was thinking about, well, I have two poems actually. Surprise, yay! I have multiple poems. And one is I was thinking about my grandmothers and I was thinking about ancestry. And so I have this one. And then I have one related to the idea of whether or not we have to have been loved in order to love other people. Like whether we have to be able to love ourselves in order to receive love from other people. And so first I'm going to start with this ancestry one. I wake thinking of the many cycles in which we move, how much of our lives are shaped by and take place in circles rather than lines. Moon cycles, seasons, days and nights, sleeping and waking, cycles of creativity and rest. I wake thinking about my grandmothers and how I used to be a granddaughter and now I'm not. I sit on the swing on this gray day, watching the horizon and remembering my grandmothers. They come back to me one by one, some more faded than the others. When I was born, I had 6 or 5, I can't remember, I have to ask my mom. I had 6 living grandmothers. I sit with my fingertips pressed to my lips and tears rolling down my face as I remember each of them. Their faces evoke in me, I can remember 5. The faces evoke in me the sensation of how it feels to be cherished and adored, held and supported, loved completely for no other reason except that I am here to hold and to love. This is how my life began, knowing that everyone loved me. What a gift to carry on this cycle, to be fueled and nourished by this original trust as old as my birth and before. The tears continue to fall, and I'm not sure why, but I let them fall, hot against my cheeks on this cold gray morning. I glance over at my rune of the day and see that it is the crowned heart, the rune of unconditional love. And so acknowledging that not everyone necessarily comes from an ancestry of love, but we still all come from love as a ground of being. Not all of us come from the ancestry of love. There's some love somewhere. Some of us have painful childhoods and painful life experiences, and it might not feel like we come from love, but we still come from this ground of love, this ground of being as love. And so that connects me to the next poem, which is about love. I wake thinking about love, the many forces that conspire and cooperate to configure our lives. Contrary to the oft-repeated notion that we cannot love ourselves until we love others, we come from love. It is from being loved that we learn how to love, that no need to wait or struggle, but to exist already in inherent worthiness. This is not everyone's experience, for many people live lives harsh instead of healing, but it is from this original creative impulse of the universe from which we spring, a love so formless and vast that it shaped eternity out of nothingness, spun worlds into form and shaped cells into you on this day. This is where you come from. This is the force that fuels you. You have exactly what you need right now. And so I wanted to explain briefly about what I meant about that. So it's repeated. There's certain phrases that kind of take on almost like they become kind of phrases, but they also take on sort of a truth kind of statement without necessarily being fully evaluated. Like they are passed on as truths, which may or may not actually resonate in our own bodies and experiences as truth. And so one of them is we cannot love other people until we love ourselves. And I am here to say that we come into the world from a ground of love, and we don't actually have to. So I feel like that can be used almost as a shame and blame. Like, oh, I haven't healed, so I can't help other people heal. I don't love myself, so I can't help other people. I can't love other people. I don't trust myself, so how can I help other people trust themselves? I don't actually think that we need to have those things first. I don't think it's necessarily true that if we don't love ourselves the right way, so to speak, that we can't love others. I feel like as a mother, something that I've learned is I will do things for my children that I will not do for myself. I will extend myself. I will reach farther. I will try harder in order to give something to my kids that I don't have for myself. We don't always have to have everything first before we can give it away. Sometimes we need to be open to what there is, and we can receive what there is. We can receive it before we have it to give. Does that make sense? Like we can receive it before we have it to give. So we can in fact offer things to people and to our children that we may not necessarily already feel in our own hearts. We have those things. We come from that ground of being that allows us to create. We come from an infinite source, an infinite reality that allows us to create new worlds from where we are right now. So I might not be explaining that clearly, but I feel like sometimes those repeated kind of catchphrases can actually be kind of damaging or almost kind of self-inhibiting, like I have to do all this work on myself, or I have to fix all these things about myself before I can XYZ, before I can reach out, before I can do, before I can change, before I can help. And really, I'm here to say that we can receive. It's okay to receive before we give too. It doesn't always have to be something that we've fixed or healed before we can give it away. So I might not be saying that as clearly as I mean to, but that's one of the things I wanted to say. And then also I have some questions to consider this month are, do I love myself? Do I feel like I love myself? And what happens if you lean into that ground of being, the sense that we are all held in a network of belonging, that we all come from, that there's love all around us, and we all come from an original creative impulse, an original source of love. What happens if we lean into that sensation? The other thing to think about is, are you living a life you love? And I am here to say that I believe we are all worthy and deserving of living lives we love. And when we feel like a pang of desire or a pang of longing about wishing we had something more, that's not a sign we're doing something wrong. It's our invitation into change. It's our invitation to cross the threshold. It's our invitation to experience something different. Like the call of longing is the invitation. It's not a sign that we're doing something wrong or that there's anything wrong with us to feel that pang of desire or that pang of wishing. And sometimes I call that divine discontent. Like our divine discontent is a sign. It's a communication. It's a learning that we can follow the divine discontent. And so are we living lives we love? Are you living a life you love? And if you're not, is there something that you can do? Is there a small step? And that's not to say, so a life you love is not a perfect life. Like there's things I would do differently in every day. There's things I would change probably in every day. I am here. I start where my feet are. I am here with what there is. I am here in my life as it is in full. Sometimes that holds discontent. Sometimes that holds thunder. Sometimes that holds roses. Sometimes that holds ferocious wind like there is today on the day I'm making this video. I am here for life in all it holds. And I also deserve to live a life I love. And if most of the time I'm spent not living a life I love, that's my invitation to change something. That's my invitation to do something differently. So a life you love doesn't mean a life that's perfect. Just like being in devotion to your own life doesn't mean that you love every second of it at every day. But a life you love is possible, and a life you love you are worthy of a life you love. And so thinking about that too, are you spending your days doing things that you love? Like, consider the possibility that you're worthy of spending your time doing things that you love. Can you let love shine through you? Can you trust that you are held by and supported by love? And so then I have these questions, these love-related questions to consider. And that is, one comes from Patricia Lynn Riley from her book, I Promise Myself. Embrace your ordinary life, whatever its wrappings, for in the embrace you will hear the whisper of gratitude. Listen for her in the ordinary activities of your day, in the ordinary encounters with loved ones, and in the ordinary challenges that rise to greet you each morning. She speaks from the depths of you in the voice of your ordinary life. And then another one from Margot Anand. Loving yourself does not mean being self-absorbed or disregarding others. It means welcoming yourself as the most honored guest in your own heart, worthy of respect, a lovable companion. So what would happen if you allowed yourself to be the most honored guest in your own heart? Worthy of respect, a lovable companion. And that brings me to the classic Love After Love poem by Derek Walcott, which you've probably heard me read before, but it's worth considering again. The time will come when with elation you will greet yourself arriving at your own door in your own mirror, and each will smile at the other's welcome and say, sit here, eat. You will love again the stranger who was yourself. Give wine, give bread, give back your heart to itself. To the stranger who has loved you all your life, whom you ignored for another who knows you by heart. Take down the love letters from the bookshelf, the photographs, the desperate notes. Peel your own image from the mirror. Sit, feast on your life. And so I think we can think about that too with the longing. What are we hungry for? How might we feast on our own lives? How might we cross the thresholds back into our own hearts, the most honored guest? And then another quote from Paula Reeves, life is swift and precious when it's in our grasp. Loving yourself is a small act of appreciation for the everlasting love that breathed you into being and on whose wings you will be carried when it's time to leave this life. An everlasting love breathed you into being. And so loving yourself is a small act of appreciation for that gift. So I wonder how it feels to consider that question. Like, if we love ourselves, it's a small act of appreciation for the love that breathed us into being, like almost a responsibility to love ourselves here, now, with where we are. And so that is the thoughts. Those are the thoughts I wanted to share with you today about love. And then I had one more little poem to share with you, really about reconnecting. I talked about practicing the presence of the goddess as a way to get centered in your own center, practicing the presence of the goddess in your day, remembering that you walk in the palm of her hand, remembering who breathed you into being and who holds you now can be powerful. And so this poem really speaks about that altar of the everyday, the temple of the ordinary that I write of so often. Today I sought the pines and stones once more, descending into a steep gully to look for sweet water easing its way from the depths to trickle across ancient stones. I found both comfort and delight in sitting by a tiny pool, looking into the water, allowing myself to be held and restored. I anointed my forehead, face, and shoulders with cool drops from this smallest of possible waterways, both unnamed and essential, and then opened my palms to the sky to invite the rain. I sat with swaying sycamore, elm, and ash trees, listening to the music they made with leaf and wind. I found a turkey feather in the leaves beside the water, soft and fluffy and tipped with iridescent greenish shine. I listened to my heart. I offered up both hope and dreams upon this altar of stone and sky. So thank you so much for being here this month. And I wanted to leave you with 2 reminders from our snapshot deck today as well. And one is this: about the sweet song of our own approval. This connects with love as well. This is something that I've shared in past videos and past lives and things like that. Is I've joked with my husband Mark before and said, somebody gave me a compliment and I said, oh, that sweet song of approval that I love to hear. And then I thought, what's my own sweet song of approval? What's my own sweet song of approval? And how would it feel to listen to that? So that's another question to leave you with. What's the sweet song of your own approval? We may find we feel hesitant or tentative, wondering or afraid. May we put our ears down close to our souls and listen hard. May we return to center over and over again, as often as it takes, even when it feels hard to remember. May we trust ourselves even when we feel shaky and uncertain. May we hear the sweet song of our own approval echoing in our bones, and let it be the permission we need to leap. And then my final closing, go ahead and put your hands on your heart if you want to. This is something to remember, to carry forward with you as we move through May, to let this sink into you and soak into you and soften into you. Remember, you always have what you need within you. No matter what swirls and whirls and howls, no matter what tugs at you for time, you have your breath, you have your body, you have the rich resources of your inner life to support you. You have the earth beneath your feet. You have this sky above you. Center into the present. Call your spirit back. Call yourself back home. Here you are. Love is all around you. Thanks so much for being here. Keep living your magic. Oh, and make sure to go to 30daysofgoddess.com for all your companion printables and resources. Thanks so much for being here. Keep living your magic. Bye-bye.